The sun is up, time to embark. Forget the rules, we'll make a mark. From bar to bar, the world's our stage. With Darren and Chris, we're turning the page.
Darren, welcome back.
Chris, how are you?
Good. Episode 16. Here we go. We're going to call this one kind of a relatively short title, Curators of Atmosphere.
We are both curators of atmosphere.
We are indeed. We are indeed.
I'm not just a side note. We're doing this, and I haven't had my coffee yet. So if there's any oops or ahs or whatever, that's why.
You're getting him frosh. Talking points this week. We are going to talk about the Las Vegas Weekly. Last week did their dive bar piece. We're going to talk about that. LVRJ came out with some economics of the local economy. We're in the thrust of March Madness. We're down to the Elite Eight today and tomorrow.
Woo!
You and I went day drinking at Evolve last week, and then we're just a quick shout out to drummer Taylor Hawkins.
All right.
How you been?
Pretty damn good, I must say.
Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't had my coffee yet, so you're gonna have to just let me roll with it.
I had my coffee, a couple sips of Diet Mountain Dew this morning.
We're not doing garage beers today.
Yeah, so much so that we're gonna take it easy.
Yeah.
Sometime liver rest for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's thrust into it. So, like I said, I just raised this last week. The Weekly came out with their dive bars. In there, you have Dino's, the Huntridge Tavern, Hard Hat Lounge, Champagne's, the Rusty Spur, Stage Door, the Dispensary, and Double Down Saloon. How many have you been to?
Of those, probably four.
Yeah.
Not a lot.
Really?
You know, I've never been to the Huntridge.
Oh, really?
Which is a damn shame.
Haven't we done that? No.
No. I've never been to the Huntridge. You know, I live in Vegas, so I lived in Seattle for most of my life. And you know, every bar in Seattle is like a working man bar, like a blue collar bar.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I moved to Vegas, I'm like, why the hell would you go to a dive bar?
Right.
You know, and as I've gotten older, you know, I've learned to appreciate it. You know, but in Vegas, you had some of the best bars in the world, so do those. You know?
Yeah.
But that being said, they are so freaking expensive now. It's like, okay, maybe I need to hang out at the dive bars because I can afford to go to the bars.
I think a dive bar is kind of the pulse of the city, and when we get too much pomp and circumstance in Las Vegas and the bouginess, it's kind of a good leveling medium. I dare say that I'm guilty of being at them all. I've visited everyone. And as we expand upon our plans, you know, that's part of the research. We'll call it research.
Research.
Yeah. Huntridge Tavern for me, you know, discovered it several years ago. And then I just kind of rocketed back into my crosshairs with, you know, Anthony Bourdain and Parts Unknown visited that a few years back.
Yeah.
So I go down there every Bourdain
Your
day.
hero.
Every Bourdain day in June and have a beer and a shot of Jameson Black if they have it.
Oh,
so,
yeah? Nice.
So Dino's, you know, on Las Vegas Boulevard, their karaoke. You know, Chris Martin was there last year, Incognito.
Was that when he was busking on Fremont Street?
Yeah.
That's cool. I hope they do a Sphere residency because I know the jokes, you know how you listen to Coldplay, but
right.
They put on a phenomenal show. I would put them on par with U2 as for showmanship, you know, Rolling Stones, all those.
And I think I've said this to you, like every Coldplay album is a concept album, and they've got a different look from when several albums back it was an homage to Kraftwerk with like the all black and then the all white tennis shoes to the pirate outfit on the other album, and then you know with their use of neon as accessories on some of their other stuff.
And the homeless guy in Las Vegas.
Yeah, conceptually for I think the Sphere, I think it would work. Huntridge, obviously Stage Door right there behind the Cromwell.
Yep.
That's my little like Vegas hack. So
I love Batista's next door, the Italian place.
Yeah. It's
terrible Italian food, but just the atmosphere, the vibe is very Vegas.
When was the last time you were in there?
You know, my dad loves going there because he's like, oh, you can drink wine? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And so that sells them right there. And it's all prix fix, so it's one price for everything.
Right. Mr. Batista, who has since passed, we were in there a couple months back when my good friend growing up, Steve Schutz, his wife was in town, Jeffany, and we popped in there for a quick one. Has a collection of more than 5,000 airport mini bottles, prominently featured throughout the restaurant.
The bar, yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah, and the restaurant.
I mean, you have your common ones for sure, but you have ones that he got in, travels like foreign and abroad.
And you know what? The red wine they give you, it's terrible box wine, but
Yeah.
I kind of like it.
Yeah. Have you been to Hard Hat Lounge?
No, but I know the burgers are really good.
Yeah, so the burgers are good. They actually have kind of a curated beer program too. And one of my favorites from Kansas City, Tank 7 on draft.
I love Tank 7.
Yeah.
You introduced me to that a couple of years back, and
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Frank,
What's the name of the brewing? Boulevard Brewing, right?
Yeah, Boulevard Brewing. Yeah.
Can I ask you what's your favorite dive bar in Kansas City?
Gosh, there is there's an area called Strawberry Hill that kind of in KCK that's out of town my dad grew up in, and so as I kind of pushed it away for a certain time of my life, at my 40th, I went back and kind of rediscovered some of that. So there's Fat Max Vortex over there.
Mm-hmm.
There was one called the Admiral Club, which I think has been bought and sold. The building's still there, but the name's different. I don't recall that right now.
Gotcha.
But it sits up on the bluff and overlooks the skyline of Kansas City. And again, to my point a moment ago, it's like one of those. It's real people. It's the pulse of the city. It's not pretentious. I mean, people that have visited with me in years past have gone over there and like. We just 4 people and we got a round of drinks for under $20. Are you kidding me?
Well, that's nice.
Yeah. So we're here. I mean,
that's Kansas City, though. I mean,
yeah.
Economics.
Sure. We're here. I'm sure we'll talk about maybe even in this episode how much drinks cost on the Strip and the economics of Las Vegas.
Yeah. My favorite in Seattle, well, not in Seattle, but where I'm from, Des Moines, was the Yard Arm. It was just a working man's pub.
Okay.
It was great because in Des Moines, there's a lot of old folks, so. You get the day drinkers, the old farts that are like in there first thing in the morning when it opens up to get their Bloody Marys and their red beers and their shots of whiskey.
We call that dedication.
Dedication, yes.
Yeah.
And then you get the early dinner crowd, but then at night it would be the young kids playing pool and darts, watching sports and whatever. So it was a good mix.
Gotcha. Have you been to the Rusty Spur?
Yeah, of course.
On the Ray Silverton.
Of course. Shout out to Kim Breen. She's working there.
Kim Breen, Michael Helper, Henning.
Yeah.
So
good people.
Yeah. So doesn't really make sense. It's by like a 3-story microtel that's mostly focused on truckers over there around the corner from the Silverton.
Yeah. The one takeaway I would have from that place, I know you have another takeaway, but anytime you go in there, you will smell like 20 packs of cigarettes by the time you leave there.
Yes.
And you'll want to probably have done some cocaine.
They are not afraid of their nicotine.
No.
Or the coca.
Not at all.
And then, of course, what most consider a major stopping point of quote unquote dive bars is the Double Down.
Double Down, yes.
Down there by the Fruit Loop.
Yes.
So.
I was there a couple times when I was younger, and it's neat.
Yeah. I mean, it's a kind of a quintessential rite of passing. I mean, obviously, you have to have your. I think you can get puke insurance. Right? You can buy puke insurance.
And that's the first time I ever saw the what's the bar Matt shot.
Oh,
what do they call it?
Ass juice.
Ass juice. Yes.
Yeah.
Ass juice. Yeah, I remember being. I think I'd appreciate it more now that I'm older. When I was younger, it was kind of like that whole Fruit Loop there was interesting, like the free zone.
Right.
And
Office bar.
Yeah. And it used to be called Buffalo, which was like a bear bar.
Right.
And if you don't know what a bear is, look it up. But it's very YMCA-ish.
Right.
I'll just tell you that.
Yes.
And then there was the gay bars, not the gay bars, but Piranha and like 8.5. And what was the original one? Do you remember?
I don't.
And they're all very kind of divey. But whatever.
Yeah, it's fun to pop around down there. I mean, I've been to the Double Down, obviously. Office Bar is when I first moved out here.
Is Office Bar a dive bar?
It is. I would consider that.
Yeah. What is the classification for a dive bar? What would you consider dive?
Bartenders who wear whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah. So is Atomic considered a dive bar?
I mean, I guess some would say, but they have fancy drinks.
Yeah. They have
I mean, the original location, it's...
So would that be part of a classification for a dive bar? No fancy drinks?
Yeah, I think so. Because you're going to get your, we've talked about this before, Troy DePaul, you have your different classifications of bartenders in this town, on strip, off strip, airport, local gaming bar, bougie restaurant, I mean, I think he had like 17 of them.
Chris, what would you consider me as a bartender?
Exceptional.
You're such a good liar. You're such a good liar. It's okay. It's okay. Moving on. Let's go.
Well, I see how the sausage is made, so I know too many stories that maybe is not ready for YouTube.
Not ready for prime YouTube time.
Right.
Oh my gosh! If there was video back when I was bartending, because I learned how to bartend before, cell phones, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
So,
which kind of is a good segue to what we were talking about last night. Is like, my friend Steve Kelly once said to me, like, bartenders are the aristocrats of the working class. And we were just talking about this in a couple scoops last night of like, I've always cited a guy that trained me how to bartend in Kansas City. His name was Mark Nidenberger. Still does it a couple days a week, I believe, down in Westport, and he has his landscaping business now and all that. But, much like sports, much like athletes, you have to get hazed. And, you said you had a guy that kind of, you kind of had a guy that taught you,
Yeah.
And one of my hiccups out here has always been is like, every bartender is the best bartender ever. Nobody else can be taught anything.
Yeah.
And it kind of drives me nuts because I'm like, really? Because you know everything,
Well, I've always said, you know this. You know this. If you place bartenders on a scale of 100% to 0, I always say I'm 49%. Because I don't ever want to be at the top half, and I just want to be just barely passable. Even though 49% isn't passable, but just below the 50 percentile.
Right.
Because I don't want anybody to have any expectations when they come into me.
I want to have expectations.
Well, that being said, yes, of course. But the first time you meet me, I don't want you to have any expectations.
Well, and this is, circling around the subject of hospitality, of which we were talking about last night. Again, it's a very cliche phrase, not just in the bartending world or the day drinking world, but it's, you never have a second chance to make a first impression.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of bars in this town. There's a lot of bars in this country. There's a lot of bars in the world. And, there's a lot of places that we can spend our dollar, our coin. And, you go out in these neighborhoods and you see people and it's like, they're on their phones. We're all guilty of it in some capacity.
Of course.
They don't look like they want to be there. I get everybody has a rough day, but we're in front of people. We're
like one of the entertainment capitals of the world,
right?
So.
And you're meant to shine. And if I go into a new neighborhood bar that opens and it's, for example, if I was driving my car in Tuscaloosa, it might rhyme with Crimson Ride. But. You're welcome.
Yes.
But I mean,
shout out to Crimson Tide. We were talking about that last night.
Right.
Ackman.
But I mean, I'm not going to go back in there. I'm not overly overwhelmed. I mean, it's not like, I'm not getting a drink for free and I don't expect it if I'm not playing a hand of video poker. But, a friend of ours was playing a hand and he couldn't get a drink. And I'm just like, you know what? It goes back. You never have a second chance to make a first impression.
100%.
And that's, that's just, I mean, bars are trying to figure it out right now because liquor sales are going down. The next generation of kids are not drinking. I mean, it's not because they're trying to be hyper healthy. Also, it's also because they're doing more edibles.
Well, that and economics. Our rents have increased so much that, when I was paying rent, it was a quarter of my income. Now it's 2/3 of people's income. So what goes, the fun times go.
Yeah.
So, you drink at home or, I think that's essentially what's going on.
And I understand the flip side. If you're a bar owner or a bar business, you don't make money on the kid that comes in and eats a Wheez-It, an edible cracker and sit there for 3 hours and nurse one pint. The dynamics and economics is, you want, obviously being safe, but consuming 2 to 3 beverages an hour.
Exactly.
So as we kind of talk about the bar economics, let's talk about the Vegas economics because all of our dear influencer friends that are out there on social media are having a field day this week because there was an article in the LVRJ about has Vegas priced itself out, and the numbers are starting to show that it was light for the Super Bowl, March Madness opening weekend. It was a light, but hotel rates still stay high, drink prices still stay high, and you increasingly get that feeling that people around the country and the world, for that matter, for one reason or other, are just like feeling the heat.
I take a different tone to it. I think that we've talked about this last episode for a minute or the previous. I think that just in general, politics in this country is very divisive, and you have a new administration that's only 2 months in, and I think people are just taking a wait and see approach.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of not. They're buckling down. I do think we are headed to recession. I think that makes people a little wary. I'm not an economist. I'm just a bartender, but I see. Yes, there is a two-pronged attack. Prices.
Right.
I think, again, like I just said, rents have been so much for so long that people just don't have the money. And I also think there's a little bit of the current politics at play. I don't think it's necessarily the pricing, because, I have a line at my bar,
Yeah.
every day, and they're paying $10, $12 for a drink.
But, the airport's unique in it. We kind of have a captured audience, right? You're inside the secured area.
100%, yes.
You can't just go from airport to airport. I'm not happy with the price here. I'm not happy with this casino, so I can go to that casino.
I think what you'll see is that casinos will start lowering their prices, and that will entice people.
But are you talking to your shareholders at that point? Because they don't want to see their price go down.
And again, that's the economics, and you know where I stand on this, Chris. I believe that one of the problems in this country, and this is that the people that don't do the work demand the biggest share of the take.
Yeah.
So until things change a little bit, I think there's going to be some struggling, and you have to eventually, when your shareholders start saying, "Hey, we're not making any money," what do? You entice the people to come. You lower prices.
Yeah.
To bring them in, and you make money. That's that's economics 101.
And to your point about being not political but political, I was scrolling down the Twitter or the X or whatever we're calling it this week, and there's a gentleman out there who runs an online casino site that gives the best deals across the country, and he's a local, and he's got some distinction within the gaming world. I think his name's John Mahaffey, and he published on one of his tweets that, if you look at it, very real for where we go, airline bookings from Canada to the United States year over year from March 2024 to September 2024. And if you look forward from March of this year to August or September, bookings from Canada alone to Las Vegas have dropped over 70%.
And that would be part of the current political climate.
Of course. Yeah. And it's, again, there's, when life gives you lemons, you got to figure out a way and reinvent. And like one of the
no, Chris, you day drink.
Yeah, where's that beer? Where's
Jesus.
That beer? But that's one of the one of the comments from his tweet was, Vegas has gotten very lethargic, and when almost 38 states have legalized gambling.
Yes,
now?
and I don't know how many. Have you been to any casinos outside of Las Vegas recently?
No, I have not.
Yeah, well, they are starting to provide premium experiences, Las Vegas style. They're doing Vegas,
right? And
so that's eventually going to take its toll. And I'm a firm believer that the Indian reservations, they're taking in so much capital that they're gonna kill Vegas eventually within 20 to 30 years.
Or if or
they'll own it.
Some of the native casinos that come onto the Strip, because obviously you have the Palms now owned by the one out of California, and then you have the Hard Rock that's coming in from Florida.
The Seminoles. Yeah.
Maybe that will provide more competition and level out some of the price. We're not saying price fixing, but obviously it's either Caesars or MGM, right?
Yeah.
They kind of have the run of the gamut.
Well, like we were talking to economic shareholders, the Strip is now owned by landlords, and it's just all it is leasing.
Right.
It's not. It's crazy, but anyway.
But then it kind of goes in a very micro aspect too. It kind of circles back around the hospitality. It's like, if you're having these Vegas experiences up in Washington State, but if you're not playing, if you're having a beer that's $3. The value proposition, and again, it's that frontline staff that we work with and see every day, that have to provide the hospitality, And I always say, I'm sorry that I don't walk in with $100 on my forehead and $100 straight on the machine.
Yeah.
But I want baseline. I want to be treated as a guest first.
Yeah, of course.
And then my perception of what I consider hospitality.
Exactly.
Hospitality. So Darren's putting the hoe in hospitality. That's probably more me. I apologize. We did stop last week day drinking. You hadn't been yet. Up in the Southwest in what are they calling, the Bend area across from IKEA there. We checked out
the Bend, yeah.
Evolve Brewing.
It's going to be the new hot spot in Las Vegas. Isn't that where they're going to build the Hollywood 2.0 too?
Somewhere up there.
Right around there.
Yeah, somewhere up there.
Evolve. It was good. It was. I like the vibe of it, but we were there. You know, we had been to McMullen's prior.
Right.
We started there, and then we ended up at Evolve. It was happy hour, so got some nachos. And
Evolve is named truly after what it's owned by Ace, the people that run Aces and L's, and Adam's the regional. He was up there. I said hello, and Leilani was off that day, and so was Walter. I had great experiences with them previously.
Mm-hmm.
But the brewer was, in fact, you walked in, you got hit with hops because they were
they were making it right
they
there.
were brewing.
I was already a couple in, and I was joking around. I'm like, the guy was up cleaning the vats, and I was like, hey, if he took his shirt off and started dancing around, it could be like Magic Mike. It'd get a lot more ladies in here.
Yeah. The female bartender was not having that.
No, she's like his wife probably wouldn't like that. And I'm like, he's encased in glass. They can't get at him.
Yeah.
It's just a show, man. Have a good time.
Yeah, they feature probably out of, I don't know how many taps they have, 20. They probably have 15 of their own, and then they other breweries, like local breweries or whatever.
Yeah, I only did one beer. I had the IPA. It was a hazy. I don't remember the name. Do you remember the name of it?
It was number 3 on their menu.
Number 3, hazy IPA.
Yeah.
It had a lot of lactate in it.
Lactose.
Lactose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was very lactic acid.
Yeah, I was not made aware of that until it got dropped, because otherwise I probably would have looked for another selection, because I'm not a big lactose in my beer guy.
I'm looking forward to going again and trying some other things. They have live music on the weekends and during the evening sometimes.
Room's very clean and like naturally lit and have a good amount of space. And obviously that area is developing quickly because, like you said, it's going to be the hot, trendy area, the Bend. And a lot of the businesses haven't even opened yet.
Yeah.
And then they have up there, we've gone there a couple times too, is Snooze, right?
Snooze, yeah.
The AM eatery. So.
And they have some, don't they have some spicy margaritas or Bloody Marys? Yeah.
Their cocktail program in the morning is pretty on point. It's interpretations of classics, but with their own. And I even though it's a chain, I appreciated what they did.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, Evolve again. We tried the deviled eggs. We tried the steak nachos or the ribeye nacho. Was it ribeye steak?
Nachos. Yeah,
it was actually
pretty good. Although their happy hour, I would say, you go to Yard House, which is a massive chain. Their happy hour is way better. I mean, it's $2 on appetizers, and still the nachos ended up costing me like $24 on a happy hour. So
yeah,
it's not that great a value.
Yeah, the baseline of the nachos should have been half of what they were. They were at 16 for like tortillas, black beans, la crema, guacamole.
They had the salsa was really good, but like I said, value wise for happy hour, it was $34 for steak nachos and a beer.
Well, and again, let's circle around. It's a new place. Our industry professional friends, I understand food costs are higher, but people are going to check it out, right? Because it's new and it's a nice looking room. But then, a business to be a business, they have to be profitable, but they have to be there. Well, they have to be there long term. But I'm not really excited, like you said, about paying $24 for nachos.
Yeah, exactly. And the deviled eggs was 4 of them for $11.
Yeah.
And man, egg prices are out there, aren't they?
They are. But I mean,
I think if you were going to IKEA and you haven't decided what you want to buy, go get you a couple of beers and you go nuts in IKEA, man. It'd be great.
Yeah, then get a pack of frozen Swedish meatballs and take them home. Throw them right in the air fryer.
There you go. You go.
Moosh boosh with Ligonberry or whatever the hell. I was at, where was I at the other day? I stopped in the home plate to see my friend Rhonda, and I talked to a gentleman named Dave that's in the group. Hi, Dave. Hi, Christine, if you're listening.
Hello.
And he works in conventions, and he was telling me that he just got back from Costa Rica, and Microsoft was doing an event down there where Bill Gates were talking to people in-house, Microsoft employees. And he was just, he's a future thinker, and he's a smart man, and, we kind of talked about this a little bit last night.
Dave or Bill?
Bill Gates, but he was recording.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Dave was
Who's this Bill you speak of?
Yeah, apparently.
Never heard of him.
William Gates went to Harvard University. He was a dropout.
Dropout of Harvard, yes.
Yeah. But he was talking about AI, and he was basically giving a stern warning to his employees that, he goes, you work for me, I love you, but AI is fundamentally within a decade going to change the way we live. And he's
for sure.
He was saying basically to save your money now, adapt, know that it's coming and make moves in your personal life because
I honestly believe that have you ever seen the movie Passengers?
No.
There's a robot bartender in there that's excellent.
Okay.
And I could see, within my lifetime, probably, assuming I live 20, 30, 40 more years, I'll see a robot, like a legitimate robot bartender, not the crappy ones you see on like the cruise ships that make one drink every like 5 minutes.
Sure, because what are we talking about? They don't get sick. They don't call out. They don't take them away.
But these bartenders will be able to, like, oh man, it'll be cool. Like they'll be able to remember every conversation they've ever had with you. Like you log in with your card, it'll immediately know what you talked about. It'll remember it. It's going to be weird, and it's going to change everything.
Why does that guest say Shazbad?
Nanu.
Right. Well, I mean, you and I have both dipped our toes into AI, and I think of it as a tool.
It's definitely a tool. It's cool. It's neat. It's going to change the world.
Yeah, but I think that there's still going to be. We might have to go away for some things from like a generation, like talking about the kids now that are eating the edibles or whatever. But I think in the world that you and I prescribe to, that it might become nouveau again to go to a bar that has a real person that has, the ability to speak.
Do you think AI will be able to conquer some of because I know there's been a couple companies that have tried to do it with liquors. They've tried to reverse engineer them and make liquors that were around or recreate liquors that were very famous.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if AI will be able to actually accomplish that, because I've had a couple of the ones and it just doesn't work quite that good yet.
Just write a prompt for it.
Write a prompt. Write a prompt. That's it.
Those of you that know me personally, I'm a big Foo Fighters guy, and this past week was the 3rd anniversary of Taylor Hawkins passing away from a massive heart attack.
I remember.
Down in South America.
That's crazy. I remember you and I watching that. What was that movie they watched? They made?
The horror film? Yeah, like The Night Before or whatever it was, and just serendipitous, and all of a sudden I got off of work.
Well, remember I told you, I'm like, wouldn't that be weird, like watching yourself die in the movies,
Yeah, and then 24 hours later.
Bam.
Yeah, you fucked them up. No.
You heard
kind of a little homage is one of the Foo Fighters. There's thousands of pictures they've had taken as a band together, and one particular photo I remember, he had this shirt on from a music shop by Tottenham Court Road in London. So
nice.
Kind of wore that today as a little homage. Tip of the hat.
Do you think the Foo Fighters day drink, Chris?
I'm rather sure they do.
I know they do. I know Dave Grohl as Jack and Coke.
Yeah. Did you? What was there? Yeah. Did you remember? Well, he's a big Coors Light guy.
Yeah.
Coors Light and Crown.
Oh, Crown and Coke.
Crown, yeah.
What was he on? I remember him doing an interview on was it the Wings? What's the Wing YouTube channel where they eat the wing Hot Ones?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Hot Ones, and he was eating wings and drinking Crown and Coke. So.
And you remember like when he was doing his little side project with them Crooked Vultures with Josh Homme and John Paul Jones. He did that little viral video, Since You Haven't Had Your Coffee. Fresh Pots. Yeah. But
my favorite is the Bee Gees, not the Bee Gees, the DGs. DGs, yes. Oh my gosh, it's so amazing.
But when they did Sonic Highways, where they went around the famous recording studios in the country, like they were down in New Orleans by Preservation Hall, you watched the camera crew because they needed Dave to tape, and like somebody runs over because he's at one of the bars on Bourbon Street across from Preservation Hall. Like, Dave, you got to come see him. So put his drink down. Oh shit, let's get it going. But
I wish I could live that life. Like day drink whenever you want, whatever. Just you don't have to go to work. You don't have to punch the clock and do the 40.
We're coming up on April, but when I purchased this shirt in 2022, are we in 25 now? A few buddies were over, Raffo, Murphy, Steve K, and Steve, actually, who went with me? Murphy went with me because Raffo and Steve K, they went up to see the home course for, was it curling? Not curling. What the hell was it? Was it
curling?
Cricket.
Gotcha.
It was cricket. I'm sorry. And Murphy went with me, and so we popped over. It was May in London, and the weather was picture perfect, like the 3 weeks that you get good weather in London a year. Mm-hmm. And we popped into this shop, and I got the T-shirt, and it was a couple of boys that worked there, and I toked them like 10 quid, as they would say over there, to get a couple of beers after. But that whole area, Denmark Street, I mean, there's just so much musical history there from people that recorded there, played there. I mean, I was Stones, David Bowie, everything.
Wow.
And just to kind of take that in for a brief moment and talk to those guys on a Friday afternoon before we made it down to Covent Garden, Waxy O'Connor's, an Irish pub.
Yeah. Waxy O'Connor's? No, you don't say.
Yeah. So, or if you
thought maybe it was Puerto Rican.
Right. Or if you go outside McMullen's on certain Thursdays, it's wax on, wax off.
Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, don't get me started.
I think that's, March Madness again, the Elite Eight start here in a couple hours. I mean, I know you're not as big as a basketball guy.
Did you see that full court shot Stephen Curry or Steph Curry made the other day in practice?
Yeah.
Insane. That guy's just,
he is,
he doesn't day drink. He doesn't.
Yeah. Well, maybe off season.
I think he just does shots in the hoops all day long. That's his drinking.
Yeah. Like wrapping up on one more thing about hospitality. Like, I brought up his name yesterday. He lives down in St. Augustine now, our good friend Junior, and works at a couple trattorias down there.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Keith is in from Buffalo, getting his vitamin D at the pools around the valley. Or he's not day drinking and or playing a video poker machine. But Junior, I know Junior, and I told Keith when he said he was going with his wife in middle April to St. Augustine, I was like, I got a good friend that works down there. So I reached out to him yesterday and got those details to where he works at and then forwarded his number. Because in this world of how hospitality works, I wrote this and I said, Guardians, we are, again, how we kind of started the episode. Bartenders are the guardians of a brick and story. We hold the architectural memory of a space long after renovations erase the visible past. So kind of as we all go forward, we talked about AI, we talked about hospitality, we talk about things, but like for the good ones out there, and we talked about this last night, of course, you're going to go out of your way to, expand upon that because unfortunately, I don't think we see it as much as we should anymore.
Exactly.
Any other thoughts, sir?
I think you wrapped it up quite nicely.
Yeah. Eloquent.
I'll let you end it.
Eloquent, succinct, and sip, socialize, shine.
Sweet.
All right, man. See you soon.